My first tall tale is about one of my old nicknames. Kids, about 35 years ago, I did something that was really stupid and dangerous, and it changed my life. I was in the Air Force, and I was stationed at a base in New Mexico. Single airmen like me lived in large buildings called barracks. On that base, a typical barracks was 3 stories tall and housed about 300 men and women. The barracks was designed with a ledge at each of the second and third floors. The ledge was about half a meter wide. Presumably, it was to make it easier and safer to clean the outsides of the windows, so you didn't need a ladder to do it. But my friends and I used to climb out the windows of the barracks on weekend nights in nice weather and sit on the ledges drinking beer and talking. Now, your Uncle Larry is normally deathly afraid of heights, but my acrophobia never affected me when I was drunk. Outside of our barracks, there was a slim evergreen tree called a cypress. It was about 9 or 10 meters tall, and it grew up right next to the barracks, touching it. When you stood up on the third floor ledge, the top of the tree came about to the top of your head. One night when we were sitting out on the third floor ledge, one of my drinking buddies said that it would probably be possible to grab the top of the cypress, step off the ledge, and ride the tree to the ground. I decided to try it, and he was right. This was back in the days before smartphones with built-in digital cameras. Some of us had cameras, but we didn't carry them around with us. So one of my friends ran back to his room in the barracks, and he came back with his camera. He said, "Larry, do that again. I'm going to get a picture of it." So I did. And here's the picture that he took. A few hours later, I rode the tree a third time. This time I was much drunker. I landed wrong, twisting my ankle. The pain was excruciating. There was a hospital on our base, but I knew that if I went to a military hospital to get treated for an injury I'd sustained during an alcohol-related incident, I'd be in big trouble with my commander. So I waited until I sobered up a little bit, and I went to the hospital the next day. I told the emergency room doctor I'd hurt my foot falling down the stairs in the barracks. He told me I'd ripped some ligaments in my ankle. He gave me a plaster splint for my foot and a pair of crutches to help me walk more easily. I was on crutches for 5 weeks. When my foot healed, I rode the tree a 4th time. This time, I was even drunker. I fell all the way from the 3rd floor ledge to the ground, breaking both of my wrists and some ribs. My right wrist was broken so badly that I needed a bone graft from my hip. I had to spend the next 6 months in the hospital. There was no way I was going to be able to lie about this injury. My commander was so angry. He punished me by taking away my NCO, or non-commissioned officer, status. He also fined me several $100s. Finally, I had had orders to leave that base and go to another base in the Philippine Islands. I had really been looking forward to that tour of duty because of all the beautiful young ladies in the Philippines. But you can be sure that my commander wasn't going to let me go to the Philippines after I had embarrassed him like that. Nope. Instead, I came to Turkey. The saddest part about this story is that when my first sergeant heard that this wasn't the first time I'd ridden the tree, or even the first time that I'd hurt myself riding it, she ordered the tree cut down. I felt terrible about that. Hey, it wasn't the tree's fault. Punish me, not the tree. but they cut that poor cypress down just like a bunch of beavers. Some of you might not know what a beaver is. In North America, there's a large rodent, an animal kind of like a rabbit or a mouse. A beaver has long front teeth that it uses to cut down trees. But a beaver cuts down trees to build its home. Those human beavers had no reason to cut down that poor cypress. Years later, when I opened my first social media account, I was asked to choose a username. I thought it would be really cool to call myself treerider, because riding the tree was such an important turning point in my life. I knew my friends on the social media would understand the reference. I didn't really care if nobody else got the joke. Not long after that, something interesting happened. I started getting a lot of messages from people I'd never met before. The messages were all very friendly, and the people who wrote them always asked me to add them. When I did, the messages they wrote after that became even more friendly. You could even say intimate or romantic. What's more, they were all from men. Apparently, they thought I was gay and they were attracted to me. For some reason. All this attention was very flattering, of course, but I couldn't understand why they thought that I might be interested in them in the same way. At the time, I was very happily married to a young Turkish woman, and we were starting a family together. All these propositions were very confusing to me. I asked my gay friend John, not his real name, if he could figure it out. I showed him my social media profile page, and he burst out laughing. "It's your nick," he said. "You call yourself treerider, and each one of these guys thinks that you might want to ride his tree." I didn't know what he was talking about, but it seemed clear that my username had a much different meaning to them than it did to me. So I decided to change my nickname to I Hate Beavers.